them with leadership development. Thank you for having me.
Coffee, Coach Coffee.
Good evening, everybody. Please pardon me. I forgot we're in a different time zone.
I forgot that too.
I'm thinking it's 5 o'clock. I'm just taking my sweet time. I just came by, so okay, I'm just gonna log in all willy nilly, not even realizing that I'm late for church. Lord have mercy. God, pray my strength in the Lord. Just showed up late for church. God, my goodness.
That's okay. We saved the best for last.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I am P. Coffee Brown. I'm a certified master life coach with the John Maxwell method. And so I know everybody's familiar with that methodology. I am a 16-time international best-selling author. Our content has hit all 7 continents. So that's just my books, but not the books that I published for other people. So I've published almost 300 authors so far, and excited about the journey to publishing 1,000 books before I leave this planet. That is our
Lovely.
aspiration, goal, and dream.
Ooh,
I
the
love
author ministry, Penny.
Wow.
I
Praise
love
Him.
it. Yes, so if
Oh,
anybody
awesome.
is interested in starting a book, please connect with
We will
Master
be in touch.
Coach.
Shall
Yes,
be.
Coffee Brown. Absolutely. So tonight, ladies, we're going to be discussing one of the major um, issues, I'm going to say, that affects a lot of our Black and Brown communities that's never spoken about, which is childhood traumas and neglect. Um, as y'all know, last week we kicked it off and it was absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Conversation got real deep, right?
Mm.
So this is part 2, episode 1, but it's part 2 from last week. So, Coffee, I'm gonna start with you since you're joining us. Give us your thoughts on childhood traumas, like what the definition of childhood trauma. What would you say?
Based on coaching, I would say it's exposure to something that is able to mentally, physically, and emotionally handicapped a child and cause them not to be able to be effective in the later years. So I would actually define it as that, something that they've been exposed to, experienced firsthand, or just in earshot, or just in any form of fashion that they had some type of exposure that is inordinately unnatural for them, whatever that may. It could be different for different people in different regions of the world, but something that's inordinate, something that's unnatural. Maybe some kind of physical abuse with 2 parents, the use of extreme profanity, um, somebody being extremely nude around a child. It could be all kind of different variations, but that's what I would define it as. So we can't hear you. Your sound is gone. Let's hit your mic by accident.
Not yet.
Not yet. We can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
Okay. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, there you go.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry about that, ladies. So, the other thing we discussed, Coffee, is how do these different situations, and we were speaking a lot based on our own personal experiences, how have they affected our lives as adults? Even relationships, friendships, because there's some toxic friendships too. So, what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, I know.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, I think probably I looked at a statistic a couple of days ago doing some research, but it's over upwards of 80% of children have seen something that they shouldn't be seeing or dealing with. And because of that, I think a lot of times the suffrage comes in our coping skills or our inability to detach from certain individuals that may have been good for us in this season, but not as good for us in the next one. Or the opposite can be true where we have attachment issues to where we cannot move from someone or something or somewhere those type of things. It's so many different variations of adversity that we can face, or I have a challenge by finding ourselves identifying with the wrong person because of the wrong experience in our childhood. So we'll find ourselves connected to somebody who has high dysfunctionality because our exposure was dysfunctionality, and we don't even realize that the two have married, and we find ourselves in a relationship with someone as a result of that, not realizing that we haven't addressed the challenges that we had dealt with when we were a child. And some things we end up blacking out, but they show up in our lives in real
Mm,
time, but we don't realize that
yes,
we
sir.
blacked that experience out.
Wow, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the
Just
first
for
question
self
that I would like to pose, I'm sorry, Coffee.
No, just for self-protection. Like in order to protect ourselves, we black out something, but that thing shows up later on, and we didn't realize that that blackout actually has to do with that specific thing. I'll
Yeah.
say this and I'll get back to you. I had one of my
Mhm.
family members said, "Do you realize that this particular thing happens every year at this exact same time? Do you know why?"
Cool.
And I
Wow.
said, "What?" She was like, "Yeah, do you realize that this exact same thing happens to this person at the same exact time every single year, but they
Wow.
still medically, they never could find out. Nobody could really tell them." And then they went to a friend of mine who was a hypnotist, and he was able to record what and reveal what actually transpired at that time of year to them so that they could overcome
Oh, wow.
it. Mhm.
Wow. That's amazing. So one
Yeah.
of the first questions that I want to pose to you ladies, and anybody is free to answer. And I know we talked about this, but I don't think we really got specific. So how does neglect and abuse actually manifest itself in our relationships? Because we spoke more on our experiences and not so much as to how it made us view relationships or friendships. Like we did talk about certain triggers and things like that. So Melly, what do you think?
How does it impact relationships or manner?
Mhm.
Um, for me specifically, at different times of my life, now I'm don't trust my own judgment when it comes to choosing a partner, or based on my historical data
Mhm.
when I was a child. Um, I just intimacy. You know,
Mhm.
when you have no frame of reference for a safe space in your childhood, it's hard to see what that looks like or recognize it in relationship.
Mhm.
Also, having unhealthy boundaries, being a chronic people pleaser. Like I said last week, setting yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, or the extreme opposite, being completely walled off. Also, what you said last week, Lashana, self-sabotage. I've seen it all in my relationships.
And I think that's what I was thinking too, more of the self-sabotage. You get into a relationship and you find yourself maybe just, you know, it's not even what it appears, but because of what you're used to, you kind of are triggered off of certain things, and that's not even what the person is doing, but you find yourself bringing those old habits and those old things into the new relationship, and the person that you're seeing is like, are you crazy? Like, what is wrong with you? But they don't know
Where they come
the
from.
history, right, or the background. It could be one thing that they said, you know what I mean? So like for me, I know um there's been a history of being talked to a certain way. So if you say something or you speak to me in a certain tone, it's going to trigger me, and so now I'm defensive, right?
Mm,
But that could just be who you are as a person. It's not even necessarily negative, but it's just certain tones
yeah.
that I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's familiar. And so now I'm biting back, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah. Shauna?
I've seen, well, personally, I have my own experiences. And then even in getting into coaching and talking to different individuals, I find that people can hit on either side of the spectrum. I know for me, uh, I did the walled off thing, or I'd cut you off at the instant. It looked like it might be imitating a past experience. And immediately, like if there's an argument, I'm like, oh, okay, so this, we're done, right? And immediately, without recourse, without even thinking it through, because it gave those same feelings, or it set off those same triggers. And at the time, not realizing what a trigger was, I would immediately, as soon as like a landmine, as soon as you hit that one tender spot, not realizing it was a festering wound underneath, I'd be like, oh no, mm-mm, I'm out. I call my
Yeah.
buddy, don't even mention his name no more. He's gone. He's done.
Right.
And now in coaching other people, I realize that it can take on an even different life, where when you think of children who grew up in abusive homes, where they themselves may not have been the issue, the topic of abuse or subject to it, they witnessed it. And so when you look at how they maneuver as adults in relationships, where you come across the women who say, well, he don't love me if he don't hit me. Or the men who feel like, oh, well, I got to hit her to have her respect. And this is how my dad did my mom. And these are the type of men that my mom had around me as a boy. And they beat her. They talked to her any kind of way. They called her out of her name. And even, the weird thing is that as children, you hated that. It made you so uncomfortable. It disturbed you in several ways. And then you find yourself as an adult imitating those same exact behaviors and taking in those same type of men as women, or that you may have looked down on your mom for engaging in and entertaining, or having issues with your dad for being that same type of man, and then you migrate as a grown woman to the same type of man. And luckily for me, that's not what was modeled in front of me, but still, I don't know of anybody with a perfect relationship. And as children, because you're not taught what parts of relationships to take away and utilize, and what parts you're supposed to see and throw away, you only know what you're taught, what you're shown, what you remember. And unfortunately, as adults, you find yourself oftentimes making those same decisions that you oftentimes as children, you'd be like, I don't understand what's wrong with her. Why would she be with a man like that? Girl, I'd never be with a man like that when I get older. And oh really? And as you get older, and you find yourself drawn to the bad guy, drawn to the guy who may not be a provider, and it's weird, because it is one of those things that growing up, I'd see people go through that as children, and then watch them as adults. And I'm like, but you used to talk about them, but you said you would never. And then you see them nevering like never before.
Nevering.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Coach Coffee, what's your intake?
That's amazing, ladies. Wow. Some things you said, that how neglect and abuse manifests in a relationship is when people shy away from intimacy. Not sex, but intimacy, being able to bond with someone, being able to be affectionate with them without the act of a physical expression, just being able to be in the same space and then just enjoy soaking up their presence and things of that nature. So those type of things can show up in a relationship. Another thing is feeling disconnected and the person is right there with you. Those feelings of disconnect and the person is right there in the present, in your presence, and you feel totally isolated, totally disconnected, just as though they're not even present with you. They're fully engaged, but you're feeling like they're not present with you. That's a way that it can show up. A lack of clarification on what your partner's intentions are, what their desires are. A lot of times people that have those types of challenges, they're not able to give out what they haven't received in. So because they haven't received things on the inside, they're not able to extract to give out what that person actually is in need of. I was sharing with someone recently, I said, it's never about you, it's about them. And it's about you being able to give them what they need where they are. It's not about what you, we all feel like
That's
somebody
good.
needs this or that and a third, but that doesn't mean that that's what they desire because we think that's what they need. So that is another way that it shows up. Another way is not able to deal with healthy conflict. Everything is
Mhm.
negative. Everything is not negative. There is conflict in
Absolutely.
relationships that is healthy, and it
Yeah.
should be there because you're not the same person. You're two different individuals taking the same journey, but you're two different individuals. I remember years ago, Sharia and I had a difference of opinion about, and it was a third party. It wasn't us, but we kind of butt heads about somebody else. I remember either she or I said, "Wait a minute, hold on. Why are we butting heads about something?" That's what I want to know. First of all, why are we attached to this in any way, shape, or form? Let's
Absolutely.
identify why we feel the way we feel, and then we identify because we both are friends with that individual. That's where the breakdown was coming from. It had nothing to do with either of us.
Mm.
And so that led me back to the book, The Four Agreements. Don't take anything personally. That's
Right.
another thing too, that neglect and abuse causes people to internalize.
Yes.
You taking it personal. It don't have nothing
Yeah.
to do with you. Your person is upset. That, listen, daughter of Zion, that has nothing to do with you. He had a bad day at the office. Those nice people didn't treat him with the utmost respect. And you think that he upset with you about something that happened 22 years ago. He said nothing to you about that. And you going all in, and he's just trying to live his best life. The man,
Yeah.
he upset about something that happened at the people job, don't have nothing to do with you, and you feeling some type of way. For what? Like, it's nothing to do with you.
Right.
And lastly, the idea that you have to be in control.
Mm.
I gotta be in control. You can't tell me what to do. You're not my daddy. You're not my this and that. You can't tell me what to do. Well, actually,
Woo.
I can, because you got your name changed. I didn't get my name changed. So, if you let a man change your name, then I would hope that there is some type of idea in your mind that he's going to ask of you to do something, and you're going to adhere with it without giving him a bunch of rebuttal on everything the brother asks for. I mean, I'm gonna need you not to be, feeling like the brother can't say nothing to you, but he changed your name. Okay, all right. So, okay, I don't know no daughter of
Shauna,
Zion.
why your head cocked to the
I
side?
don't know no daughter of Zion that changes a man's name. I don't know that, but we live in a new day and age, so maybe some of the daughters. I don't know. But it's first the creator, then the created, which is man, and then we showed up after the fact. So we was like third in the okay. All right. I'm just going by the line. It was the creator, then the created, then we came out of the creation. Oh, okay. All right. I'm just saying. I'm just
and I think
divine order.
You said there was a
Exactly.
ranking order.
I'm just saying. I didn't say rank. I don't use that word at all. I'm just saying the creator.
I'm prior military.
Then the created. We was the created from the creation.
And in military, that's called rank.
Correct.
It's called order. It's
I
called
worked for the
divine
military,
order.
but I couldn't go in. So amen.
Mhm.
Chain of command.
I'm on the outside.
Command.
There you go.
There it is.
We don't want to trigger anybody watching or hearing the podcast to think that we said, okay, we don't want to.
Right.
Well,
right.
I don't want that.
I mean, we are created equal because we did come out of his side. We didn't come out of his arm or the back of his neck or his feet or nothing like that. We did come from his side. So we do have an equal harmony. However, the accountability doesn't rest on us. It rests on the Son of God. Amen.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm a preacher. I can't. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is we probably should have put a disclaimer that said it's probably gonna be some cussing, because if you I hear the word submission coming out, and, for some
nobody
people,
say that. Nobody said that. Nobody.
Yeah. For some people, submission is a cuss word.
But but interestingly enough, when it comes to going to someone's, we receive a position from an organization, and then they ask us to do something, and it happens to be the opposite gender. Last I checked, we don't have to take issue with that man submitting to that man. So I mean, submission is a part of authority,
life.
So we submitted when the kind nurse gave us the protocol for the church. So if we weren't gonna submit, she could literally click that button and say, okay, let me go ahead and get you off stage because you don't want to do what I asked you to do. I gave you some information and so
Uh-huh.
that's a part of the process of life. Think about it. You submit to a stop sign. You don't just go
Yeah.
through it. You submit to
True.
a red light.
Laws of the land.
Law is there
It's
it
just
is.
something. It says yield. It's not like you're gonna just go and you saw it say yield. So
Absolutely.
we got everything that surrounds us has a level of submission attached. Everything that is
Absolutely.
in our life has a level of submission to it. Everything.
Absolutely. And and I think that's where, when we're 100% honest with ourselves, that's where the untreated wounds come into play and show themselves to be the most unstable. Um, when we're in these relationships as adults, and because, like you said, in certain situations, obedience, submission is a natural part of life, and it's something I do every day when I'm driving my car, when I'm following the laws of the land. You know what I do? I could use a little more money, but something about going next door and taking whatever's in that house, but yet and still, when it's time to play those same roles in our relationship, where we've been bruised, where we've been broken, where we've been mistreated, it elicits a different response out of us, sometimes to the point of being visceral. And that in and of itself should give heed that, hey, we might need to pull this Band-Aid off, because I think it's something a little deeper under here than what you thought was just on the surface. It's something that's actually in here and going to the bone. Because me telling you what to do should not be any different, especially, but like Melly said, am I able to even trust my own decision making? Am I able to correctly put out the right boundaries? Because I don't trust my decision making because of my historical data. Now, when you tell me what to do, there's a visceral response, because there's something on the inside of me telling me that you probably aren't the one, like the last three weren't the one, but like the last three where I ignored the flags and the signs, because that butterfly wonderful feeling that we get on the beginning and front end of a relationship is no longer there. So now when you tell me what to do,
Right.
you talking to me?
Right.
And then we got all the reactions to it, whereas in the beginning it was all fine and good. Or like you said, at work, unless you're the top person in the company, there's somebody over you telling you what to do. And that's perfectly fine, because you want the paycheck.
Right.
But you know what, y'all, even in dealing with employment, and that's why I said this is about relationships in general, because I can even speak from my place of employment. Like, we have a militant administrator, and there has to be some type of trauma there, because there's no way that you come into a place of business and you I don't even know what's the word, Shauna, because you know
Like
what
you're a bull in a china shop. Like
yeah.
everything has to be a bully type of situation.
It's like it's like all that.
Like I have to exert
whatever.
my authority and my power. Like I have to come in with a sign that says, I'm the boss. I'm the boss. Like you've come across those people where it's like, okay, but I'm the doctor. And it's like, oh, okay, that's great.
We have those people in people relationship that way as well.
Oh yeah.
Imagine what she's like with her husband.
You don't have one anymore. So again, childhood traumas, and I don't know like what may have taken place, but there's definitely something there, right? And so a lot of our childhood traumas are things we came up in, they're triggers, and it's certain things that our mates or friends may do to cause us to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have one friend that she has to control everything. If she's not telling you what to do, why you didn't answer your phone and why you didn't do this. And it's like, hold on, baby, because I'm not sleeping with you. So let's reel it back in a little bit. I didn't
Right.
answer my phone because I chose not to, or I was busy. But even in that, you have some of those, and those are triggers, right? Because
Yeah.
for some of us, we were always told what to do, not necessarily by our parents, right?
Right.
Or all parents are not the best parents, right? Some parents made a whole lot of mistakes. Some parents are abusive. There's different things, you know. It's one thing to be abused by a parent. Abuse is abuse, don't get me wrong. But when your mother that birthed you or your father, who you put all your trust in,
Mm.
abuses you, then it's like, you know, I see people tend to either go one way or they go the other. They either grow up to be those people that are, I'm never going to abuse anybody, and they're overly protective, and sometimes they can be overly protective to a fault, right? So let's speak on relationships, because if you're in a relationship with somebody and just say that they were abused by their parents or whomever, and so now they're overly protective, so you can't even go to the trash can because they like, where you
Yeah.
going? Or why you got that on? You know what I'm saying? I can remember being in a relationship, and if I decided to wear anything other than tennis shoes, it was like, who you trying to catch? Nigga, we going. I mean, it's the boot. It's the boot. It's a boot. It's okay.
The
It's
food.
not that serious, right? But those are triggers. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it's like, hold on, like now you're controlling me,
Yeah.
and you're trying to take me out of who I am,
Yes.
right? So I want to read a comment real quick. Connie said, we tend to pick familiar spirits that we learn during our childhood, and it becomes a repetitive cycle because we think if we stay, we will change them.
Mm. My love will make him see the error of his ways. Yeah. That's
Mm,
a good point, Constance.
Precious,
and
what you?
and change is internal, it's not external. There's no way to get someone to make a different decision externally. So attempting to bring some type of a force from the outside for somebody to do something on the inside, that doesn't
It doesn't
work.
work.
And because be- that's a loaded challenging thing that a lot of people go through because they feel like something about them will make this person become a different individual. Well, the challenge with that is, I call it default settings.
Hmm.
Anything that you change can be put back to default settings. If you got a new phone and they say, oh, you got to reboot the phone and go back to the factory reset, that's
Boom.
what's going to happen with that individual. They're going to do whatever it is you're suggesting long enough to keep you engaged, to keep your attention, and then they're going to revert back to their original default settings because it's not internal, it's external. That's
Right.
the reason why a lot of times us as women, when we go into things, we give out too much information for
Mm.
that person that we're attempting to build something with, to have the kind of fuel they need to produce this fire. And then eventually that fire gets doused it out, and then we start suffocating. Like, oh,
Yeah.
why am I suffocating from this fire? It was so hot and warm, and now the fire is out, and I'm literally suffocating from the same thing that was keeping me safe and warm. Well, because first of all, you gave that man way too much information for him
Mm.
to use the ammunition against
The
you at the next round.
weaponized.
So
Mm.
like guys they think I'm so funny. They, Mr. He just be like, what question do I need to ask for you to give me? Hey, you asked this question. That's the answer to that question. Ain't nothing else for me to tell you. You asked that question.
Right.
And poor man of God, I just be like, well, I mean, you need to ask the right question.
Well, they're so
I'm not
they're
giving you
so
no other
used to us
information.
giving
I ain't got
all
nothing
of
else to
it.
tell you, sir. I mean, that's you asked that. I ain't got nothing to tell you.
Yeah.
Poor son
But
of
see,
God.
that's a good idea though, to have that restraint. Because a lot of times we kind of have word vomit where we just kind of spew out, everything that's ever happened to us from the start of our memory.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the thing about it is you almost all of us go into every relationship doing the same thing. And before you know it, you have 5, 10, 15, 20 people who know your entire life story, and that, you know, every relationship does not end in a peaceful place. And now look at all of these unfortunate enemies that you've given the key weapons and key ingredients to your downfall, you know. And I mean, and let's be real, everybody's not trustworthy. So I love what you said about the fact that we should have a lot more restraint going into these relationships, because you know what, until the relationship has proven itself to be fruitful and long term and committed equally, they don't need all of that.
Right.
Mhm.
So then
Yeah,
my break.
go ahead.
So hold on, Coffee, because we kind of touched on this last week and you weren't with us. So let me get your thoughts. So I get what Shauna's saying and I hear it, but my question is, okay, so if we're waiting to give these individuals that are in our lives this information, right? Because we don't know on what level or if this relationship is going to last. What if they're triggering us in the process while we waiting? And they don't even know that they're triggering us, right? So how we dealing with that?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna just say it as a coach. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it like
Come
I say
on,
it
coach.
to my clients.
Come on, coach.
He's not responsible for the internal stuff that you're dealing with, period. So whatever you're being triggered by, it really has nothing to do with him. It has to do with what happened prior to him showing up in your life. Secondly,
Oh,
we get so ecstatic about somebody liking us or the probability of him loving us that we forget the big F word. It's called FRIND. Everybody needs to be in the friend zone when you first start out. It need to be no physical expression and nothing like that. And start out, son of God, I don't know you. You didn't put your mouth on me, your hands on me, nothing like
Right.
that. Girl, I don't know you from Adam. So you don't get that kind of access. We give way too much access too fast. I need you to be my FRIND. Now, I'm gonna say this: as women, we got to learn how to control that internal emotional compass that we're so driven by and step into the place of logic, because we are trifold. So we have the ability to go by logic and reason. And another thing too is watch what he doing. Watch what he doing. And when I move, you move. So he move, you
just
move.
like that.
Just like that.
Yeah.
And then
That's good.
have your boundaries before you engage anybody, son. Anybody. It don't matter who it is. Have those boundaries in place of what you will or won't allow. And you don't have to express it. You have to position yourself to actually walk in that. So your posture tells everything. Everything.
Right.
And one of the things we mentioned last week was that if we would take the approach of first healing
Of course.
before we initiate these relationships, because we kind of have this thing where we're not healed. We know we're in need of healing to some degree, even if we aren't sure exactly the specific areas where the healing is needed. We know something is off. We know something is not right, because after one or two relationships, it can't always be everybody else. That's the one
Common
constant,
denominator. Yeah.
the common denominator is you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're encountering problem, okay, there's a problem in this relationship. Okay, boom, that ended. Okay, now I'm over here and I'm with the next man and it's a problem over here. Okay, now I'm on the third one. Okay, now, and then at some point we got to stop and say, okay, I'm the common denominator.
Yes.
I need to take a step back from trying to attach myself to somebody. And I need to do some self work. I need to do some healing. I need to do some realistic evaluations and be 100% transparent and honest with myself. That, you know what, I'm jumping from relationship to relationship and I'm getting the same or similar outcomes. The only thing that is the exact same is me.
Absolutely.
And if we were to deal with it from that perspective, it wouldn't be so difficult having restraint in the next relationship and not giving them all up front, because some of those things will no longer trigger us and have an effect on us because we've healed.
Right. Yeah, and we have to have people in our life that are not yes people. You know,
Yes.
I told one of my clients, I say, hey, go to the person that you know cares about you the most and ask them. So, what is there something about me that is disturbing to you? And
Mm.
see what they tell you.
Mm.
And then go to another person, that is around you enough to tell you whatever the truth is. Like my best friend is a guy, and he said something the other day. He said something that I did or something like that. I said, really? I said, wait a minute, let me get my pen. Hold on a minute. So I went and I got my pen. I wrote down word for word what he said, right? So I asked Mister, and he said, yeah, you do that. You didn't know you do that. I said, it's an innate part of my makeup, right? And so I said, but does that bother you? He said, girl, that don't bother me. I said, but it seems to bother him. He said, well, everybody responds to the same behavior differently.
Differently.
So
So
it could bother one person over here and the other person is fine with it. So I told my
Yeah.
bestie, I said, well, I'm not going to adjust this particular thing. So are you going to be able to deal with it? Or, I mean, we breaking up. We've been together for about 20 years. Are we breaking up? What's going on? He just bust out laughing. He said, well, I've been dealing with it all this time. I just so happen to express it now. I said, well, why did it take you all these years to say something? He was like, because something happened. His daughter, somebody did something and it reminded him of me. But I said that to say this, people in our lives need to feel free enough to address our defects.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And we need to be okay enough to accept corrective criticism because if a person loves you, they're not going to tell you the good stuff all the time.
All the
Nobody
time.
is good all the time. That's impossible.
Right.
And that's important in all relationships, even my one of my superiors, he said something to me once. I said, really? I said, do I need to adjust this or do I need to just tweak it a little bit? He said, just tweak it a little bit because I actually like that about you, but today it was too much. I said, you know what? Got it. And because I'm open, he
Yeah.
felt comfortable with coming to
Mhm.
me with it. He literally was like, I actually like it. It was a little much today. And I said, oh, okay, all right, cool. Let me go ahead and I said, you want it to be docile or you just need to turn down just a little bit. He said, you can't be docile. That's not your personality. So I don't expect that
Right.
from you. I said, okay, all right. Just making sure we clear because this is gonna be on, when my review, when it comes time, because I'm out here helping people with their businesses. I'm gonna need that paperwork to line up with that review so that money will line. Okay, all right. Then. So
Right.
I'm just trying to make sure we good on what needs to be done here. But you gotta be open and you gotta stay lighthearted and kind of really stay lighthearted because some things are going to hurt when you hear them and you're going to have
Absolutely.
to address it with some support. Couch potato, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with getting on somebody's couch to address things. It's actually a great thing.
Yeah.
You
So
know
that
what, Coffee?
the tools you need in your tool belt.
I wanna touch on that too because we know we have triggers and we have childhood traumas and we have adult traumas and but that healing process and what that looks like. You know, we spoke about as African American, the majority of us was told what happens in this house stays in this house. You know, you don't go and seek counseling. You better go in there and say a prayer and take your arse to bed. That's what you better do. So you dare not
Yeah.
spoke about it, right? In my adult life. And then we still have to be careful because let's be clear, everybody's a coach on the internet right now. Everybody. But there are some real ones, like the ladies on this platform, that are actually certified master coaches who's gone through the process. And I feel like as Black individuals, male and female, right? We're talking about us. And I know we also spoke on last week, Coffee, about men, right? Because if they're came up in an abusive household, because we're the supposed to be, we're the lesser vessel, right? So when we speak about how they treat and we say, oh, Black men ain't this and they not that. But if we came from abusive households, 9 times out of 10, they did too, right? And if they haven't gotten the necessary um, healing, I'm gonna say, then that could be part of the reason why they treat or why they look at certain situations a certain way. What did they daddy do? What did they see their daddy doing? Or what did they mama do? What did they see their mama doing that's making them treat women a certain way or lack thereof? You know what I mean? I remember I was telling Shauna when I was married to Torrance, he told me and Shauna, he said, y'all need to read the Willie Lynch letter.
Mm-hmm.
And I never read it. Shauna has it.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't get the grasp of it. And he said, when you read it, it teaches how we were taught division
Correct.
amongst African Americans, how they beat the black male down in the presence of their wives, so that
Correct.
the wives didn't respect them. And on top of that, now the wife is also sleeping with master.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so she has no respect for the black man because all the power looks like it's in the hands of the Caucasian man.
The
You know what I'm
oppressor.
saying? So I keep saying that I was going to read it to really understand our race and why we do the things that we do and where all this abuse and neglect comes from. And it's just, I think it's worse as the years go by, right? Nothing's changed. There's still many people many kids is starting at an early age and earlier. You know, it's people that are bothering with infants and toddlers, and it's getting worse as it goes. But that spirit comes from somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what does healing look like for us? Because we laugh and we joke about healing, but where does that process start? How can we, as coaches and Black women that have our own past traumas, guide people towards healing? How can we receive healing?
Well, I'll tell you what, when I went to go get certified as a coach, I didn't know that we were going to have to go through the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were in New York, and I remember when we went through our process with the John Maxwell method, and John Maxwell is like the number one speaker in our nation when it comes to principles and business principles and biblical principles and truths and honesty and integrity, things of that nature. And I remember we were sitting in that room and she said, okay, so everybody in here has to get naked. And we were all looking at each other like, you mean like take our clothes off? We all thinking, for some of us in our brain, we was like, I said, in my mind, I knew what she was talking about. And I was like, now in my head, I'm thinking, to what extent is this going? She said, in order for you to lead somebody down this path, you will have had to walk the path yourself. Same concept in the airplane. There's never going to be a time that a flight attendant is going to tell you to put your mask on last. They're going to tell you to get your oxygen first before you help your family. Literally, I was on a plane the other day. It was I was way in the back of the plane because I like to be in the back. I like to, be in the back chilling. I got to watch the people. So I'm way in the back of the plane. She comes all the way to the back of the plane and tells a guy, remember, put your mask on first before you help your children. And when we went to that environment, when I tell you, it was probably the scariest thing, but the most profitable for each and every one of us that was in there. I mean, some people start screaming and hollering. It was a lot, because she was like, think about this. You're going to experience this with some of your clients. Some of your clients are going to have to go all the way through the valley of the shadow of death. They're going to have to go through that to get back to life. So if you can't get through this, then you're not going to be I can't certify you, and you're not equipped to handle what's going to show up. You never know what's going to show up. And as we begin to take that journey, and when we got done, and after that, those series and the weeks and stuff and the process that we went through, that's the way that you're able to help somebody else, because you got to take the medication yourself before you can prescribe it to somebody else.
Wow.
And having went through that process is a reminder that we're not above anybody. But when it comes to coaching, coaches are in the trenches with the team. Coaches are not above. Coaching is totally different from anything else. We're in the trenches with the team. If we're not in the trenches, then we're truly not a coach.
Right.
So we got to be in the trenches. We got to be able to be open and transparent and fluid and liquid to be able to add value to somebody else. We can't have something hovering over us and it's just hovering. And as soon as somebody, this just bothers me. Well, why is it bothering you when you're the one that's supposed to have your oxygen mask on first? It shouldn't be bothering you. So, but healing in itself is a ongoing part of life. We go
Mhm.
from grace to grace, growth to growth to growth to growth. It's always going to be a process in our lives as we evolve, as we become, as we grow. It's always going to be ever a part of our life. There is no one person that has mastered the art of life. We never know what's going to show up in life. Never know. And so, because of that, we just have to stay in the point where we're meditating, where we're investing that time in ourselves to where we have the right information coming in so we can regurgitate at the time when it's necessary to add value to someone else. And we have to just constantly cleanse out so we can give out, cleanse out, fill up so we can give out.
Absolutely. I know I was thinking about at one point going to do some counseling because I'm like, girl, you're not healed. You're not even close to being healed. Like, but then it's like, oh, I don't want anybody to know, that I need to go and see. As a matter of fact, I just went to the doctor on Friday, right? And so as I'm telling her about the school situation, coffee, I'm telling her about it and some other stuff that's going on. And she said, she said, you're depressed. And I said, no, I'm not. And she said, you are. So she wanted to give me this medication, but she's like, we got to send you to see a psychiatrist first. I'm like, now, wait a minute. Because when we think, as nurses, we don't, but as lay people, when you hear psychiatrists, you think, oh, they crazy. They
Right.
crazy.
Right.
And so I think even being a nurse and knowing for 21 years being a nurse, I still kind of was like, no, I don't know if I want to go see a psychiatrist, even though I know from a medical standpoint, certain medications, even if it's just the focus, they're going to send you to see a psych doctor first, right? But the other side of me that was taught you don't do that said, oh, people are going to think I'm crazy. And so I tell people, I know everybody have their own views, but from a nursing standpoint, I tell people do what you have to do for your sanity's sake until you get to that point, because everybody's faith level is different, right? Some people may be able to come through it with no medication. Kudos. Some people may need medication to get to that point, right? So I always tell people, you got to do what's going to work for you. If that means going to lay on the couch, if that means doing virtual sessions, if that means having a candid conversation with someone that you're close to that knows you, that you can just get it out, right? Instead of holding all of it in, because I know we tend to hold stuff in a lot and it plays on our psyche. Because let's just be honest, we wearing how many hats?
Right.
And I know for you ladies, and especially Coffee, because she ministers on a regular basis. So you're constantly putting out, right? Constantly putting out. You're constantly feeding, but who's feeding you? Who are you able to tell your childhood traumas to, or your relationship traumas or bad relationship, so that you can, like you say, we got to get naked. It took me a minute, but I caught it. You know what I'm saying? I got exactly what you were saying, like we got to be naked. And I know a lot of people don't just get naked with the truth because and this is another thing we spoke about last week, because we're too afraid how it's going to affect the person or the people who's responsible for those things that we may have had to go through. I know I talk to a lot of people and they say they feel like they're a failure, or they feel like they ask for these things to happen to them. I don't feel like any woman or man or male child or female child asked to be mishandled.
Absolutely not.
I don't think anybody goes into a relationship as an adult. You meet somebody and you're thinking, oh, I met so and so. Oh, we kicking it, we vibing, cool. You don't go into it expecting to be abused, but it happens a lot. And it's hush hush. A lot of times we're in relationships and we make the person look good to everybody else, but behind closed doors we're suffering. So the thing that Coffee touched on, and I said this, I wanted to do a post one time and just to see what the reaction would be. How many people are in a relationship but you still lonely though? You still feel like you're by yourself, right? Because you either can't be open, you can't be honest, because they're going to turn around and use it against you, or abuse you with it, or they're just so caught up into their own thing that they don't even see you're suffering. Because, and we're all guilty of it. I know I got 30 things going on. So I may not be being in tune with my mate, right? Which may make that person feel away and vice versa. So
Mhm.
again, because I can point my finger, I'm pointing it at y'all, wherever the camera at, but I got three more that's pointing back at me,
Mhm.
Right.
right? So
Mhm.
I can say, Coffee, you this, you this, you this, but what am I contributing to this situation? You know what I'm saying? What am I, because just because we've dealt with things, like Coffee said, it's not his or her responsibility to make sure that you're okay.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I think we do, is that we feel like we have to heal everybody. I can't heal you, baby. You got to go seek that on your own, because I got my own traumas I'm going through. And
Mhm.
a lot of times it ends up just being a cycle of
Yeah.
trauma, because nobody's dealing with, I'm over here not dealing with my trauma, this person over here not dealing with their trauma, and we just a mess together.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And so then the relationship is, even when we look at the history of marriages don't last no more.
Yeah.
People not staying married, but then when you look back on our marriages, the stuff that they dealt with to stay married, that's a whole nother ball game. That's still trauma.
Correct.
Mm.
You know,
And
because
a
when I
lot of
look
the
at my
reason,
family,
right, a lot of the reason was because of other things,
Mhm.
not because of those two individuals. And it's so much to unpack with this dialogue. Like it's so many things to unpack.
Mhm.
Um, but when you talk about, I literally just got off the phone with somebody, and they were just saying the exact same words as you said. You point your fingers, and three of them coming right back to you.
That's
And
right.
I think we, with when it comes to relationships, we have to learn the biggest person that we need to relate to is ourselves. We
Yes.
don't spend enough time with ourselves. That is one of the biggest dilemmas when it comes to external relationships, is the internal one that we have with ourselves.
Absolutely.
People gotta be around. I gotta be around somebody. I gotta be there. I can't be over here by myself. No, no, no. You have got to learn how to relate to you before you can relate to
Ooh,
anybody else.
say
What
that,
is
Coffee.
it that you need? What do you love about yourself? What do you strongly dislike about yourself? What do you know you can do better for you? Not nobody
Yeah.
else is responsible for that. You're responsible for you. And once we learn how to genuinely and authentically take care of ourselves, then what will happen is, though the laws, the universal laws, we will actually start to be able to draw in magnetically the
Yeah.
type of individuals that are supposed to be in our lives from that place of a whole person. We're
Hmm.
supposed to be completely whole before we can connect. Nobody can make us whole but the one that created us. No human can do that.
You
So
hit on. Oof.
yeah, so when we're at that place where we're totally internally well, then no matter what happens on the outside, we're good. We're good. We're able to go to sleep at night. I mean, I got a serious situation that's going on in my life, and my dad was saying today, he's like, "How you feel about it?" I said, "I ain't no feeling about it. I'm good. I go to sleep every night and sleep like a log. I don't shed no. I don't." I said, because think about it. It's the serenity prayer. You can control what you can. You got to release what you can. Period.
Right.
And so once
Absolutely.
you come to that place internally where you're good, then the external stuff that happens, it'll be just that, external. One last thing, because I know Mel wanted to hop in. Sharia, you mentioned this is something else that we don't know about. I want to encourage anybody watching this, male or female, go and get your blood work done. Make sure that all of your levels, your zinc, your iron, your magnesium, things like that, because some things present as psychological and they're actually physiological, and you just
Mhm.
have
Wow.
a vitamin deficiency somewhere.
Yep.
That's
Those
good.
deficiencies can affect, I mean, they can show up in crazy ways in your life because you have some type of deficiency going on in your body temple, and your body is not functioning at its best and highest use. And because of that deficiency, there's other things that are presenting. So sometimes it's really not that we need to see a psychiatrist or anything like that. We literally have something going on in our body that we're just not aware of. And because medical doctors don't encourage us to get blood, they don't go out there. When I go to the doctor, I need you to take my blood work for this, that, that.
Everything.
How much it's gonna cost? I don't care how much it costs. I know it's not covered by the insurance.
Right.
That's fine. However, if I don't have this blood work done, I cannot take care of myself.
That is a
properly.
great point. That is such a great point.
Yeah, and then sometimes you got to go back historically and start asking the elderly people in your family about certain things in a non-threatening way. When I tell you, when I started learning how to have abstract conversations with the elderly people, because they get offended real easily.
Oh yeah.
So when I started asking the abstract questions, Uncle John used to do such and such. Did y'all ever find out why Uncle John did that? And they started telling me about certain medical challenges that we had in our family that nobody said anything about, that all of us needed information on.
And nobody got help about.
And nobody,
Wow.
and it was all because of a vitamin deficiency.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
Now,
believe
I
you.
would like to circle back
Ain't
to
that
where
something? Wow.
It's
Sharia
terrible,
was
but it's true.
talking. Where I'd like to go back to where Sharia was saying about, in a lot of Black and brown homes, it's, whatever happens in this house, you don't talk about, which also is kind of what stems with the whole, you don't seek outside help. And so we tend to feel a type of way about seeking help, medical help, psychological help, mental help. And I recently joined Toastmasters because I want to become more comfortable with public speaking with audiences. And one thing that my mentor was saying on Friday when we got together was that oftentimes when people have a issue or concern with public speaking, it's because you're in your own head about what you think someone else is thinking about you.
Yeah.
And it stops you, it hinders you, and it makes you afraid to speak, or it creates this level of discomfort because you can't focus on the speech because you're too focused on what somebody else might possibly be thinking about you and how you look in the eyes of someone else. And he said, if you can ever learn to stop letting that be a concern, like the 4 agreements, people's issue with you is not about you, it's about them.
Right.
And we don't realize that a lot of times when people are critical of us, it's not always us more than it is them dealing with something or not dealing with something on the inside of them and deflecting it towards us so that we think that now we're the problem. It's the same thing when it comes to getting help and seeking help. My issue with getting help is me thinking that someone else may look at me as a sign of weakness or a mental instability, when the truth of the matter is you're 1,000 times stronger than the person who pretends not to need the help.
Right.
You know what I mean? But because we've been programmed and conditioned a certain way, that we feel like help is a sign of weakness, or a lack of faith. If you look at it, when you start getting into religion,
Right.
oh, well, your faith should be stronger than that. No, you should just be able to pray and fast and you good, but you have to be there. The Bible says a measure of faith is given to everybody. And so it also says building up on your most holy faith. Right. So consequently, faith is like a muscle.
Right.
So if we ain't exercising it and we ain't building it up, it's going to be just as flimsy as a baby's legs fresh out the womb. You know what I mean? So I think one thing we got to do a little more of, whether you're spiritually inclined or not, is you got to give yourself more grace. We were having a conversation, a client and myself the other day, and she was saying, I want to change my diet. And, she was saying, I eat way too many cookies. I'm indulging in sweets and things I shouldn't have. And she was really upset with herself. And she was like, I said, so this week, what did you do different? And she said, well, this week, I tried to make healthier sweet snacks like using, a healthy form of granola and peanut butter and organic fruits, and I've got fruits and things like that. She's like, I know it still has sugar. I know that's still, and I'm like, hey, but we're missing the fact where an effort was made consciously to change the direction that you are going in.
Yeah,
You know,
when
before there was no thought about it, I'd instantly grab a cookie. I said, you now have, instead of grabbing a cookie, have grabbed fruit.
yeah,
And I said, so it's making the first steps, it's celebrating the first steps,
Right.
and having that consistency and even making an effort.
Yeah.
Your effort may not be 100 yet. You may not be done with sugar, but you know what? Grabbing fruit is a much better start to grabbing a chocolate chip cookie.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And you got to learn to celebrate the little wins, and you got to learn to celebrate the small steps, because small steps over a period of time will get you further than someone standing still.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And you know what? Luke was a physician. So
Yes, he was.
we need physicians. So anybody that says otherwise is deceived, because Luke was rolling with Jesus and he definitely was a doctor.
Yes, he was.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, ladies, I think we're going to conclude this. I want everyone to please give your handles and what you do for the people that have joined throughout the podcast that didn't catch it in the beginning. Melly, I'll start with you.
My name is Melly B. I am the founder of Sisters with Invisible Scars, which is a safe space for women who have gone through what I've been through. I'm still on the journey of healing from sexual abuse, molestation, and domestic violence. The creative arm to that, I created as a vocalist and writer, I created The Soul Kitchen. You can follow me at facebook.com/sis, SIS, Sis Invisible Scars, all one word.
Absolutely. Shauna?
I am LaShauna Valentine, also known as Coach V. I am the owner of Mind Tuition Coaching. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook under Mind Tuition _coaching. And really and truly, we help people to transition their mindsets from limiting beliefs to empowering thoughts. And we help executives and entrepreneurs and medical professionals with leadership development.
Coffee?
Yes, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I am Coach P. Coffee Brown. I am a certified master life coach, and with over 10,000 hours. That's when you become a master. You have had to do it over 10,000 hours. So that's how you become a master.
Love it.
I use my certification in the publisher space. We publish we're 17 international best-selling projects hitting all 7 continents. We published nearly 300 writers thus far. So we are in that space to help people to bring their stories to life through written publications, because in order for us to live, we have to have something that exists long after we do. So my websites are pcoffeebrown.com, ceocoffee.com. It's KOFFE, Brown. On all social media platforms, you guys can connect with me anywhere you're at in the social media space. Would love to support and add value to you guys in that capacity.
I love it. I love it. I just want to say thank you, ladies, for joining me tonight. I am Sharia. I am the founder of She Speaks, the podcast. Also, Silent Scars, that is a private group as well. Me and Melly are going to be collaborating on some things because I started the foundation. Risen Foundation is in the process. That's up and coming to be able to assist individuals that have been abused, that are seeking shelter, financial help, different things, kitchen, just, really trying to help people get to that next level in their life and not live in their past. So I thank you, ladies, for joining me. We will be back here in this same space next week, same time, with episode number 2. So I will post what the episode would be about. And again, I thank you, ladies, for joining.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.